So I think, nutrition through the life cycle and strategies in weight management, the latter in particular, are courses that are of great interest to our student. And I think they could be taught through many different perspectives, certainly strategies in weight management. And my approach to teaching that is really kind of stepping back and taking a hard look at a lot of the traditional measures that we use and examining them with a pretty critical eye. So for example, something like body mass index is riddled with, really complex and complicated issues. It's not used as intended. It's not intended to assess body fat. There are a whole lot of issues with that. So I would encourage people to really come into it open-minded and willing to critically assess kind of what the standards are and how we can start to work with that. And it's a real challenge because all of the evidence, all of the tools, all of clinical practice relies on some of these measures that we know are not great. So I think from my perspective in teaching something like strategies in weight management, we really need to think again about what is the outcome that we're trying to achieve and how are we assessing this? Is our goal health? So I stress that a lot. My students would probably tell you they're sick of hearing that from me. But I'll often bring up, okay, because they'll say, oh, this diet wasn't successful. What's the measure of success? And is it just weight? Because that's not the same thing as health. And that's an underlying message that persists throughout that course. Similarly, the life cycle course is very interesting because most of what we hear, most of the information that's provided really only pertains to a healthy adult population. We didn't have recommendations in the dietary guidelines for children under 2 until just the 2020 version. So it's the first time we're having recommendations for the 0 to 2-year-old group in the dietary guidelines. So our biggest national, recommendations for dietary intake. So we do again get into, what are the recommendations? Where does the evidence lie in terms of all factors, nutrients, what do we need? But again, recognizing individual components and availability. So that's there's a little bit of a variation in approach strategies in weight management. We look more kind of outside. We examine the tools that are used, but kind of more critically. And something like life cycle, just thinking again about not just what are the strict recommendations, but what are the sociocultural implications of the recommendations provided?